I was restricting probably since I was like 11, like really young. Everybody would think that you have an eating disorder. In reality, it was actually the most food I'd ever eaten in my life in that time. If you eat carnivore, you don't really need to force fasting. Most information we're given today, just in our world, is because of sales. Why have we come to think that grounding is something that's not beneficial to one's health? And we've been convinced that a pill is. The simple answer is always, I think, the right one. The more that we try to engineer things that should be naturally taken care of, the sketchier it is. I had so much energy to do it because I was fueling off of carnivore. The part that's missing is a cultural shift towards, and what got you there? But that's not improving their metabolic health. That's not actually affecting a change.
Hey folks, it's Dr. ShawnBaker here. Hey, if you or someone you love is suffering from chronic disease and you're tired of just managing symptoms with potions, pills, and procedures, I want you to check out Revero.com. Our team of dedicated professionals is committed to tackling the root cause of your issue and finally getting you healthy. Hurry up, though. Our spaces are filling up very quickly. Everybody, welcome. We have with us today Lauren Knight Hughes, who I've known for a number of years. I think she's interviewed me a couple of times and has been, well, I'll let you just tell your own story. Lauren, tell us about yourself. Where are you from? What are the thing you do these days?
Yeah. Well, so good to see you again, Shawn. It's been like a minute, I think, since we've done this, but so I'm in Texas now. And I think the first time we spoke, I was living in Denver, so changed it a little bit. I have a channel where I discuss a lot of different things. One of the things I discuss is how life-changing carnivore is. I just stumbled across it probably 5 years ago. So that's how we met, is through, actually, I went through your training program to become a carnivore coach years ago. And my full-time job, though, is I'm a sales director at a very large Fortune 500 company. So that's a lot of how I approach, what we look at in today's society as far as the food system, healthcare system, all of that. But yeah, I talk about, like I said, carnivore amongst many other things, but all of which are designed to kind of help us all achieve our potential, be as happy and healthy and satisfied in life as we possibly can. So learn some things on my way on a bumpy road and hopefully try to share some wisdom if I can.
So you're in Austin, Texas now, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right. Austin.
Yeah. It's a nice place. Yeah.
Seems
to be kind of a lot of people sort of gravitate to Austin these days.
I know.
I spent my early days in college. I went there, University of Texas, many, many years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that you had obviously experimented and done carnivore. I assume it helped you in some aspect. What did it help you with back when you tried it?
Yeah. So I'm just going to be super transparent about all of it, just because I think it's really relatable to a lot of people. My whole life before carnivore struggled with disordered eating. And I think that probably started with when I was, I don't know, like a kid, like 11 maybe. But it went through my high school years, got really bad in high school. And then college, I was better. But because I look back, I now know that I was malnourished. I had really bad anxiety. And I considered myself depressed. I was on antidepressants too. But, from the outside looking in, I looked pretty normal, right? So I think this is actually pretty common with a lot of people that you struggle with food. And that causes a ripple effect for a lot of other things, mental health wise and physical and all that. So when I found carnivore, it was because my friend, he was trying to figure out how to cure tinnitus, and he is an artist, so he needs to have good hearing and struggled with that. And he actually came across carnivore to help resolve issues with tinnitus. So he was trying it and he felt really good on it. And so for me, I just figured, okay, well, let's give it a shot, because at that time I was just trying to do whatever I could in a disordered eating mindset, basically, to just stay thin, lose weight, whatever. And I tried it for a month, very pure 100% carnivore. And it was insane. It was like the most I'd ever eaten in my entire life. I was I'd never experienced truly fully being satisfied and full, not that way. And I trail run too. So I would run like 14 miles for fun, and I could do it easily while doing carnivore, but there was no fear of food anymore. So again, I'm saying this, it sounds really extreme the way I'm explaining it, but I actually, like I said, out front, people wouldn't really know I was struggling with that stuff. It was just internally like this constant struggle with food. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
I mean, outwardly, a lot of people put on an outward appearance that may belie what's beneath the surface in many cases, and it's
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what most people probably do.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting because you said you never eaten so much, as far as you saying like volume of food, calories. What was a
Mm-hmm.
metric that you're using?
Yeah, it was calories that I was measuring everything off of. So this was a total paradigm shift for me because I started, my friend, he was sort of guiding me through it. And so he was the one being like, no, eat until you're full, eat until you're full, eat until you're full. Cause he was doing it for tinnitus. So he kind of understood how to do it and had done a bunch of research. And I super trusted him because we're really close. So I just kind of trusted him and I was like, all right, okay. Like I'm just going to keep eating, and I would be hungry and I would feel anxious about eating more because when you have a disordered eating pattern, it kind of just manifests in like the amount of food that you eat. And so if you freak out if you're eating what you feel like is going to be too much. Because again, I was doing this, I was restricting probably since I was like 11, like really young. So yeah, it was calories. And I would use what is that app? It's like a tracker or something like that, calorie tracker or something. So there's many of them, but I was using one of those. And so I knew like every single calorie in an egg and a piece of bacon in like a tomato, literally everything. So yeah, he was basically like, nope, you got to eat until you're full, just eat carnivore. And so it made me, I was tracking it week over week. And it was crazy because I didn't have a whole lot of like weight to lose necessarily, but it was just like extra, let's say 10 pounds or whatever that normal people have. I lost the 10 pounds in like 6 weeks or something like that because I was just consistently doing that and I was so full. So it totally shifted my perspective on what calories are and what it means to just like eat a normal amount of food, if that makes sense.
No, it certainly does make sense, and a lot of people see that they eat maybe more than they're used to, and they actually end up losing weight with that, which I think is quite interesting.
Yeah.
I think clearly there's metabolic shifts that are happening. Maybe it's just the higher protein content, which we know already has a bigger thermic effect. So it's interesting things like that. What
Yeah.
So did you encounter any negatives with that? You said you're exercising fine, you feel better, eating a lot. Were there any sort of major negatives that you had encountered?
Yeah. I mean, so it's been this kind of like ongoing process of encountering different sort of chapters, I suppose. And up front, I didn't encounter any negatives, actually. I really didn't have any. The only negative, I guess, that I did have big picture was I didn't realize how important electrolytes were. Um, because I'm very athletic. And so I lived in Colorado at the time and I would run these trails for like 14 miles. And, you're in the sun and you're sweating and it's hot and, you're only eating protein and fat and you're not eating any carbs. And there was one time when I got back home and I was laying in my bed and it was like a delayed response where maybe an hour after I finished running, I felt really faint. And then I needed to puke and I was like, oh my God. And I realized it was because I wasn't taking in enough electrolytes, if any at all, really. I just didn't take it seriously. So that changed. I started taking in way more given how much liquid I was letting go of. And then, yeah, as far as just negatives, people's impressions of it, it's funny because like everybody would think that you have an eating disorder. In reality, it was actually the most food I'd ever eaten in my life in that time. So what was an eating disorder before, now they thought it was. So there was just people's opinions about that. I can say a couple things that if you want me to go into as I've evolved and healed metabolic health that have come up, if you'd like, but however you want to go about that.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because, everybody, like you said, it's kind of like a journey. And then there's people who do this and they'll say,
Yeah.
well, I found the answer. And then they're like, well, let me try something else because, there's always this perception of something can be relatively different. And so people often experiment and maybe find something that's working for them, at least for the now. And then there's
Mm-hmm.
always the future. Like I'm the first one to say that I'm not committed to eating one thing for the rest of my life. We'll
Mm-hmm.
see how things go. Right now, I've been doing it 9 years and I'm pretty happy. I haven't seen any major reason to change anything. But so what
Yeah.
has been your sort of trial and error and experimentation or any things you want to discuss around that?
Yeah, it's been really interesting actually because so I'm 32 and I guess I started this when I was like 27ish and I think I've changed, right? Like just biologically I'm going to change hormones, the way the human body changes, female's body changes, all that. So it's been just sort of like this interesting progression. Also I'm an athlete so I lift and I going through running and lifting and kind of back and forth and those like what I'm doing in each season. So what I realized was when I started out carnivore, 100% meat was like the best thing I could ever do for myself because I came off of like eating so many carbs or even not even just many carbs, like tons of protein shakes that had all those ingredients in it. So doing carnivore with high fat was really satisfying for me and it felt really good on the stomach and I was really satisfied as I continued to heal my gut, because I believe that's a large part of this is like lowering inflammation. I was allowing myself to feel full, understand what it feels like to feel full. As I progressed in that, I started to almost like wake up. I wake up pretty hungry. And then there's like that whole concept of fasting. And I feel like sometimes we force fasting in a way that doesn't necessarily need to be. I used to force it and it would actually make me crave like sugary things a lot. Um, so what I ended up starting to do was incorporate, this is a little different. I don't know if you ever heard this, but like apple cider vinegar in the mornings. It has been really powerful for me because I think as I moved through the years, it helped to improve my gut microbiome basically in a way. And I think when you have some of that in there, it helps you process proteins a little bit more effectively. And for whatever reason, that's been a huge game changer for me. And I don't lean so hard on the fasting when I don't necessarily need to. I think for women, a lot of times you don't, if you eat relatively well, if you eat carnivore, you don't really need to force fasting. You just eat when you're hungry, you stop when you're full. And I had to learn that over time. So I think those two things being a little bit softer on the fasting side, but then also incorporating some stuff that supports the gut microbiome as I've healed the gut has been really big for me. And I don't know that a lot of people, I don't know if they try the apple cider vinegar stuff, but it's good.
Yeah, and I know it's been around for a while. People have used it and advocated it for various reasons. Some for mitigating blood glucose spikes during a meal. Some people incorporate meals or other reasons. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
So what are you up to these days? You said you work for a Fortune 500 company. What kind of
Mhm.
stuff are you doing these days?
Yeah. So I'm their sales director. So that's like the full time job. I manage people in a sales capacity. So, I have a team. My team's awesome. And I I do my content on the side. So for me, I think when people talk about carnivore, I think I personally never have ever desired to talk about a diet on a channel. Like it sounds kind of vain to me from the outside looking in. Where I try to incorporate on my channel, which is what I do on the side, is more of like a lifestyle approach to what it means to live like a carnivore lifestyle. And so a lot of my time is spent learning. And then I interview those people about what they know. So what does it mean to go grounding? Like I spend a lot of my day now rather than like focusing on working. Once I finish my work, I'll go on walks often and I will listen to audiobooks about those kinds of things. I I love to. I think it's something that I have baked into my day more now that I don't know is talked about enough is creating like really quality connections and relationships with people. So, it's like, what am I up to? It's like I work, I do my side thing too, but then I also make sure to establish the things around that, that make me happy, the relationships, the things that we actually really care about. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I know, like, I was on your channel. I did a debate with, well, I think it was with Garth Davis or something. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
a year ago or so, a year and a half ago, whatever it was. And so you've had a chance to interview various people with varying backgrounds and varying
Hmm.
interests. What other things have you learned? Because this is something that's interesting because, as someone who interviews people myself, I get to learn a lot. Other people's perspectives. Some
Hmm.
of it I take, some of it I kind of think doesn't make sense. But I've adapted a few things, mostly not so much around diet, but a lot of ways I train differently and some of these other things. So what things have you learned from some of these people that you incorporate that you found to be useful and valuable?
Well, yeah. I mean, I talk with people. So, yeah, you were on with Garth Davis. I always want to call him Garth Brooks, just by habit. But yes, Garth Davis. That was a great conversation between the two of you. And that's more in the food lane, right? So, okay, he's plant based, helps to heal people. You're carnivore, you help to heal people. That point of that conversation, I've done like, I think 6 of them or so with Ken Berry and Chafee and Dr. Seafried and some others is really just to have people who are doing the research in the field, but with totally different approaches, kind of figure out what is the thing that's the main thing that's helping people the most. Because everybody, you can have a different approach to doing it, but there are some consistencies that you unearth. So a lot of what I found in those is like removing ultra processed foods is pretty obvious, right? But that was the point. And what I like to do is just like, I don't want an echo chamber. I don't want that. So in that world, in the food world, I like to bring on people who have different takes because ultimately I think we all could learn a lot from a lot of different people. I talk about things with like big food, big pharma. So the bigger systems, let's say, that are working for or against us, depending on how you want to look at it, depending on what your topic is. So for me, I'm a sales director, so I look at a lot of these systems with a sales angle, right? And most things that we are given, most information we're given today, just in our world, digital world, is because of sales. Somebody's trying to sell something or make money or whatever, at least in America. So I talk about that kind of stuff a lot. Other things I like to talk about too are totally separate from what you would consider a carnivore lifestyle, but I kind of fall into a similar lane. Do you pay attention to quantum physics at all? Or are you like interested in that world at all?
Um, I mean, I guess I have a superficial interest, but not so much, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a really pretty new field, but there's a lot of new research that's coming out that has had a difficult time to come out, similar like to carnivore research for similar reasons, that challenges our paradigms about, just the physical reality that we're in. And so I like to understand, and I've been speaking to a lot of people who are actual physicists who study consciousness or study kind of like the fabric of our reality. And the reason I like that is because I've personally gained so much benefit from like just even, something as wooey and simple sounding as grounding. We don't really give that as much credit, I think, as it deserves. But I find that people in the carnivore space or even plant-based or meat based, whatever, like do become a little bit more appreciative of that kind of um, health solution, right? It's like we evolved with nature. Why have we come to think that grounding is something that's not beneficial to one's health? And we've been convinced that a pill is, right? Which is only relatively new. It's like the last 100 years, 100 something years. But so I study a lot of that consciousness stuff and what it means to have kind of like, it's called quantum health, is what people are calling it these days, which actually Ben Greenfield talked about a lot yesterday at this conference I was at. I was really surprised to see that. Um, yeah, so those are some of the things that I like to talk about that I think are helpful for people just to understand how to feel the best, look the best, all that.
Yeah. So quantum health versus quantum physics, I guess they're quite different. I'm not sure what quantum health is. I'm not sure how you define that, but I mean, it's certainly there's other things outside of diet that are important. I think the things it's like I'm, beating a dead horse, but sleep,
Yeah.
activity, circadian biology, I think has a significant role there, stress mitigation, all those types of things. And yeah, I mean, you're certainly right. I mean, we didn't evolve as a species with shoes on. I mean, we
Right.
probably spent,
Right.
and I just, at some point, whether it was people got sick of getting parasites entering through their feed or cutting their feet on, whatever rock or whatever
Mhm.
it might have been. There wasn't any glass back then, but I decided
Yeah.
to opt for shoes and air conditioning and heating and all the other, and beds and all the other things that we now take for advantage as modern species.
Mhm.
What things, I mean, it's interesting, the things you've maybe tried over the years that just didn't work. I mean, ever things I mean, maybe you can talk about
Mhm.
maybe other dietary approaches, but I mean, things you're like, this sounds pretty, because I gotta be honest with you. I'm a pretty much a skeptic on most things. I see stuff out there. I see and I get a lot of backlash, like the methylene blue stuff that people are all excited about right now.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I think it's going to be it's one of those things. It's gonna flop around for a year or two, and then all of a sudden people move on to the next shiny object, and
Yeah.
so. But people are adamant. Oh no, it's the best thing in the world, and it's the greatest thing. I said, well, maybe it'll turn out. But my experience over the years has been most of these things don't pan out. Any
Yeah.
insight from you? I mean, I'm 58. You're 32. You've got some
Mhm.
breadth of experience. I may have a little bit more, but regardless, we all find things that we get attracted to for whatever reason, and we're decided that either no longer interests us or it didn't provide a significant benefit. Any of those things come up that you can remember?
Like, so many. It's the thing is this is the thing is, like, I think that the simple answer is always, I think, the right one. It's always the simpler thing, in my opinion, right? So, let's just, like, I'm at this conference yesterday, right? And there are dozens of booths with, like, all these various solutions that are there to, like, it's literally like to biohack you and help you achieve optimal health and all that. And while I think there's a place for some things like the blue light blockers, I don't subscribe to that kind of stuff. I don't use them, but I understand why people do, and I know people that benefit from them and all that. Like, I think that's, we're staring at screens all day. That does make sense to get a little support there. But I mean, there's just so many things where I'm like, there's just things to, like, connect you to what you talk about all the time. I'm just doing anyways, which is like, okay, go to bed at a relatively similar hour each night so you get enough sleep. Like, and then you won't need the weird caffeine boost thing that's there to optimize your health, right? Like, or, you know, rather than buying a grounding mat and grounding shoes, like, take 20 minutes to just go sit outside when you can, right? Like, things like that, I think we overcomplicate. Same with, like, all the supplements. I just feel that, to me, I used to try to pay attention a lot to supplements, and I just can't. I don't know. I feel like organ meats do it pretty well. Maybe taking a couple other things depending on your diet, whatever you need, like fish oils if you need that. I just find that if you eat real whole foods and you eat a lot of fat, and you take good care of yourself by sleeping and doing all that stuff that we talk about, like you said, beating a dead horse. I just think it takes care of itself. But there's sort of like this thing that happens, I think, where it's almost like a health trap that people get stuck in, where they overcomplicate things. And it's like, you got to buy this thing that's $350 to really optimize. And you've got to buy these and these. And it's like a sales trap again. Everything can be sold to us in some way, shape, or form. So it's kind of a long-winded way of saying, I really don't subscribe to most of the health optimization stuff. I just like to eat meat, get it from a grass-fed, grass-finished place, good water. I go outside, I walk, I strength train 3 to 4 times a week. I make time for my friends and building community. And it seems to work pretty well for me.
Hey, folks, it's Dr. ShawnBaker here. Hey, if you or someone you love is suffering from chronic disease and you're tired of just managing symptoms with potions, pills, and procedures, I want you to check out Revero.com. Our team of dedicated professionals is committed to tackling the root cause of your issue and finally getting you healthy. Hurry up, though. Our spaces are filling up very quickly.
But
Have you seen, obviously, not to bring too much politics in here, but we had a shift in administrations with a bigger focus on either raising the awareness of health, chronic disease, maybe trying to actually combat it, with something new. Has that impacted your circles? I mean, have you noticed a significant difference in the folks that maybe because you've always been there. I mean, you've been there for many years. I've been talking about this stuff for, a decade now, at
yeah.
least. And I certainly get the impression that maybe more people are interested in this than a few years ago. And some of the things, it's kind of funny. You see some people that are now fairly popular talking about the same thing that people were talking about a decade ago. Like it's the first time anyone's heard of this stuff, which is interesting. But what has been your impression? Do you think this Make America Healthy thing has legs? And do you think are you seeing anything in your company and in the social circles you run with that's made a difference?
It's such an interesting time right now. Like things are changing a lot. So I'm kind of an interesting person to ask this because I have so many different friends in different pockets. Like I really do have friends that would consider themselves more left, and I have friends that would consider themselves more right. And then I have I work at a large company that is, there's just certain things you don't talk about in a corporate environment. And anyways, it just depends on the circle that I'm in. I think that there's momentum that's taking place with, the whole Make America Healthy Again thing. And it's really a bummer that it's become politicized because it really shouldn't, I don't think, be. But like I'll have friends back in my hometown who still currently completely think that RFK is a whack job and just can't stand what he has to say. I have family members who think that, and that's really what they believe, and they're probably going to stay that way for a long time. I have people, particularly in Texas, it's way open to, like, everybody in Texas for the most part is pretty open to, not everybody, but to what the Maha movement is doing. At least in Austin, I should say, maybe not greater Texas. And then in the corporate environment, it's like, I would be pretty convinced in saying, at least where I work, most people would not pay much credit to what RFK has to say. So it's kind of one of those things where I think like the people who get it are getting it more and more, but it's a slow shift and change, I think, for others to really understand what the Maha movement is trying to do. It's just challenging because it's tied to such a political representation in a sense that I think that repels people from understanding it. But what's interesting too is where I work, they have free food. They have like free snacks. They still have seed oils like laced in everything. So that's going to take some time with all the food, but their snacks have changed to be way like less sugar and more like natural things, natural bars versus all the processed stuff like protein shakes versus sodas, and all that has shifted a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I actually just got back from Spain. I was there a week, and I think 3 weeks prior to that, I was in Portugal, for a week. And it's interesting to seeing the difference in the food. A lot of people comment that they go there and they eat the same food and they lose weight. I mean, I was looking at because I was looking at how many steps I was taking. I was taking on average like 25,000 steps a day just because I was walking so much, because
Nice.
you're not working. So in the cities are very walkable. So I don't know if it's the food versus just the increased level of activity that many people do, because a lot of people spend a lot more time walking around.
Yeah.
And it's, be interesting to see if indeed the U.S. is forced to, or the companies voluntarily to cut out all the kind of the garbage stuff that's in there. Because I mean, clearly, this is a thing that's generally recognized as safe ingredients, which are basically thousands of chemicals that have been added to food and just declared safe without any rigorous testing. It's just the companies say themselves, well, it didn't kill the rats when we gave it to them, so therefore humans can eat it without concern. It'll be interesting over time. I mean, we may see. I mean, there's so many confounders now. I mean, let me ask you a question. So, you have friends that are taking some of these weight loss drugs. I mean, there's these GLP-1 drugs out there. There's semaglutides, tirzepatides, or and so on and so forth that people are using. Any inexperience or thoughts or concerns around that? Because, as somebody who's mentioned you had an eating disorder as a younger female,
Mm-hmm.
this is something that would be very attractive to a lot of people. What are your thoughts around those interventions?
Totally. Yeah. People who take them aren't very open about taking them, I would say. Like they're not going to just say it. But then you figure out because they've lost like 100 pounds in, some ridiculously short amount of time. Um, and they're not eating like carnivore or whatever, right? Like eventually it comes out that that's what they use, the tool that they use. And I have felt this way since the beginning. I think those are risky, super, super sketchy feelings is what I get from that kind of stuff. And I think the way the again, like I've just started doing carnivore when I was 27. I'm 32 now. I've just tried a lot of things. Like I used to be the person who ate a lot of processed foods, drank a ton of coffee. Like I've had my own like journey, you could say, with a lot of this. So this is all going to be a very subjective view, of course, right? But like I just feel the more that we try to engineer things that should be naturally taken care of, the sketchier it is, just personally. Like, so for me, and this is just another example, like I'm pro anybody wanting to do whatever they want to do for themselves. That's fine. Like that's fine. But for me, as an example, like I got off of birth control when I was 26. I was on it for like 10 years, but I just felt like something was off with it. And so again, to each her own on that one, 100%. But like for me, I was like, something feels, I don't know, weird. It's going against the natural way for a woman's body. Um, and so I feel similarly about all those weight loss solutions. It's kind of like going against the natural way. And it's one thing if somebody tries to eat well and really like pays attention to the sugars and added sugars and the maltodextrin that might be in there and all the things, right? And they take those drugs. But there's a lot of people who will just stay eating what they eat and then they just eat less. And so they lose a lot of the weight. But that's not improving their metabolic health. That's not actually affecting a change. It's not affecting the root cause of the issue. It's just another blanket that, okay, you might look thinner, but like what does your mitochondrial health look like? What's your metabolic health look like? And that's where a lot of these chronic issues stem from. So I just feel like this is kind of tinkering with a very fundamental system that we have in our bodies that is designed to tell us when we're full, when we're not, and we're like overstepping a little bit. That's now again, I've never been 400 pounds overweight. I can't relate to that person, right? Like who knows what I would say if I was in their shoes. But just from my subjective opinion, that's kind of how I feel. Would you say you feel differently?
Yeah, I mean, again, I have been 300 pounds, but I'm 6'5", and so I mean, I've
Yeah.
never been like super morbid obese. But I mean, looking at like a BMI table, I would certainly be in the obese category. And even right now, I hover between overweight and obesity. My number is at 253. I'm obese, and under that, I'm overweight. I'll never be not overweight unless I get down to some ridiculously emaciated
Overweight
number. Yeah,
defined
yeah.
by like the numbers
Well,
that are.
BMI is 25 or below. I mean, it's like I
Yeah.
have to be
Okay.
really, 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 really like super shredded and lose muscle to get that lean. So and
That's, yeah,
I don't want to
not
lose all that
necessary.
muscle to do it. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, just the other day, a recent review came out and showed that unequivocally, people that take these drugs, once they come off, they basically regain the weight back.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if you're going to take it, you're going to end up being on it the rest of your life with all of the potential issues that come with that, expense, maybe side
Mm-hmm.
effects for those that put up with them. Some people will discontinue because the side effects are so severe. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that is the solution. I mean, because the way they frame it is, well, you got people that have high blood pressure and they got to take their blood pressure pills the rest of their life, or they might be on a statin drug the rest of their life, or they might be on a diabetes drug the rest of their life. And this is just the accepted model because we've been,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way it's been for 30, 40, 50 years now. And so people are just so conditioned to take drugs for the rest of their life. And I don't know. I just ethically have problems with that for whatever reason it might be.
Yeah, I mean, and with that too, it's like, I mean, that goes back to the sales perspective, right? Like if you get somebody on Ozempic or something, right? Now they've got to stay on that for, don't they have to stay on it for life or what? How does that work?
Well, I mean, for most people, that's the reality is that yes, it might, and it's interesting because they are seeing associated benefits, reductions in cardiovascular issues, reductions in kidney disease, reductions in all kinds of things. But I mean, it's just, is it the actual molecule itself that they're giving people that's having all those effects, or is it the fact that you stop eating all the garbage, you cut back on the garbage you're eating? And I think that's probably it. And so
Yeah.
you just say, well, I don't just cut back eating the garbage anyway.
Well, right, that was my thing is like, okay, there's a middle ground to it too, right? It's like for some people, they're truly, a lot of people are like truly addicted to foods. It's like a real addiction. I mean, I don't drink, I don't do like any drugs. I barely have caffeine. I, don't, it's just like I've kind of gotten rid of every single vice, and still the hardest one to ever kick was sugar, for sure. Sugar is so hard. So it's like, I feel bad for people that have been caught in like their particular addiction, their vice is sugar to the degree that they're really like really obese. So I could understand somebody wanting to go on Ozempic to basically survive, right, and get out of their situation, almost like a version of rehab in a sense for them. But I think the part that's missing is like the cultural shift towards, yeah, and what got you there, right? Like, and let's undo that part, which is education or education or a different conversation around what, like not every calorie is the same calorie, right? Every calorie reacts in the body differently. It's not just about calories, it's about how much protein and fat and whatever. And like also not flipping out when people do approach a keto diet. I mean, there's so much hate towards that, even if it's not carnivore. Like there's so many people that don't want others, like they there's all these studies saying that keto is terrible for you. Like if we could change those things, maybe that could help people then get off Ozempic eventually and then onto a different life. So, but yeah, for people to just get on it and that's like their end all be all, I just find that to be really dangerous. I don't know why. It just feels dangerous.
Yeah, there's, I mean, just your point about people sort of opposed to ketogenic diets for various reasons. There are people that ideologically opposed to it. Maybe they're promoting a different way of life. So maybe they're plant-based, maybe they're lean protein-based, maybe they're Mediterranean-based, maybe they're just some of the cardiologists that think it causes greater risk for cardiovascular disease. And so this recent study that, Matt Budoff, Feldman, Norwitz, Sotomoda, and Tommy Wood, and some others authored, this came out, and basically it was a year CT angiography study looking at people that had been on keto for a year. And what they showed was that, some of the people had progression of their cardiovascular disease. Some had very little. And so now it's kind of like a Rorschach test. The people that really strongly believe in keto and carnivore are saying, well, this is not, it's interesting in the way I look at it, because what they did was, in an effort to use the most sensitive technology available, an effort to be as I guess as transparent as possible, they use one of the most high-powered CT scanners available, using AI software, which is really, really sensitive for finding really small amounts of plaque. And so they published their data, and they said, it's heterogeneous. Some people progressed, most people did not significantly. It was pretty minimal. And they've got the world leading authority on using this technology saying so. And what people are doing is they're saying, we're comparing this to older studies using a less powerful, less sensitive tool, and saying that because this one showed more, it's therefore worse and awful. So it's an interesting thing, and I'm hopefully the authors will show that, because I've been looking at it, because it had interest in me, because I'm looking up, I'm saying, well, what's the difference between the two measuring tools? It's like using a magnifying glass versus a microscope, and you're like,
Yeah.
well, of course I'm going to see more in the microscope than the magnifying glass, even though they're both tools to help me see better. So
Yeah.
it's an interesting discussion right now, and it's interesting how quickly it's just basically biases that are revealed. It's like a Rorschach test for
Mhm.
cognitive
Yeah.
bias with regard to dietary preferences, and so
They,
we'll see what happens over time with this as more data is
Yeah.
released.
It reminds me this, Nina Teicholz, right?
Yes, of course, I know Nina. Yeah.
Yeah. So she published this article that I made a video about this not too long ago, but basically, I don't remember if I put it out or not. It's coming out, I think. But the way that the research has been done for the keto diet for so long, they found was actually using the incorrect amount of carbs. So like so much of the data that's been used to like say whether keto is healthy or not by many of the large organizations was doing it was comparing low carb and keto to just like not low carb basically. So there's three different diets, and keto is supposed to be like 25 grams of carbs or less. Low carb is like 50 grams basically. Um, and anyways, what these people were doing the research on for keto, it was like 37% of these people's diet was carbs. So like in low carb world, it should be 25%. In keto, it should be 10% or less. The tests were done with 37% of their diet was in carbs. So it wasn't even low carb. And a lot of it wasn't even close to keto, right? As far as what the result, like what they were testing on to see how it affected the mind and the body and all the things. And so, you know, it it's just interesting when I was reading that article because I'm like, well, we don't even have like a lot of times like accurate data to show what the benefits are for something like keto or low carb. So if it comes off as like not that beneficial, or I mean, 37% of carbs, that's actually pretty high, right? Like that's getting up there to like getting closer to half of your intake. I just find like there's so much misinformation about that, or the research wasn't done effectively or correctly or whatever, that now hopefully we can, with RFK in there and all that, we can get at least some more clarity on this research. And like whatever is the answer is the answer. It's fine, but getting at least consistent data would be pretty valuable. I'm looking forward to when they do one on carnivore. Do you know when they're going to do that? If they're going to do that?
Well, there is a study that I'm involved with that is going to be done out of South. It's actually funded by South Dakota and one of the beef cattlemen's associations. It's going to be actually done up in Canada, I think, using a carnivore-ish diet, I would say, and using that against people with metabolic syndrome. So that'll be coming out probably soon, probably within the next few months. I think they got it funded to the tune of about $800,000, and wow. So that'll be the first kind of interventional trial that'll be done. And it's not quite what I was hoping they would do, but since I don't have I don't control the money, I can't do all of that. But it's going to be a start. It's going to be an interventional trial. It's going to be a very beef, like 70% beef, and then 30% low carb stuff like dairy and fish and eggs and maybe a tiny amount of plant material, but it'll be mostly carnivore, which will be the first time that we'll actually see that in the capacity of an intervention trial. And so I think it'll be something easy to see.
That's pretty good. I mean, like 70%. So it's essentially like what, 90% some version of animal meat or something, right? Like,
yeah, I'd say so, something along those ways. So the closest it's ever been, and I think that, and I mean, I think most people on a carnivore diet probably consume somewhere around that. I mean, there's some people that are just 100% beef, and I've done that at times, but I mean, my day-to-day weekly diet is usually, well, for me, it's probably like 90% beef, but I mean, there's still eggs and fish and occasional dairy products in there, but still,
okay.
It'll be interesting to see how that turns out.
That is exciting. Okay, I'll have to keep eyes on that.
So, as far as your plans for the next, I mean, obviously you got a full-time job and you're working, doing your sales stuff. I mean, do you have any plans within the health and wellness space? I know it's an interest of yours. Do you plan on just continuing what you're doing, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, it's a constant like thought. Transparently, I have a really amazing kind of once in a lifetime opportunity pending at my job right now. something that's just like, I can't speak on it at the moment, but if it were to happen, it would be pretty life-changing. So that's kind of why I stay there, because I'm waiting for this proposal to go through. And, you know, if it happens, great. But if it doesn't, yeah, I mean, I would love to do this work full time. I think, like, for me, I really just enjoy working on things that I believe truly matter. And that is a subjective thing for everybody, of course. But to me, I feel like what we talk about here really matters. Like, we're talking about helping people achieve their greatest potential. And for some people, that's like being the best mom you can be, or that's, being a good person at just a good friend, or, making a lot of money and starting that business. And I've personally found that my greatest potential in my mind was unlocked when I fixed the health stuff. So, like, for me, I stopped drinking when I was 26. I was never an alcoholic, but a lot of people in my family have been or passed away from it or whatever. So when I removed that, because I just was scared of what, could be, like, I was a social drinker, and that totally changed my life. Like, my energy changed completely. That was a hack that I initially started talking about online, like, for people that are just not necessarily alcoholics, but social drinkers. Like, it's removing that is like a game changer. I know artists that have done it, like DJs, and they are able to make so much more money and so much more content and get bigger deals because they have an edge on their competition, right? Like, it comes out, it manifests in different ways. So, like, that's something that I like to talk about. I would love to continue to help people in that space. Carnivore is just another element of that. Consciousness is a whole nother thing that I think is new science coming out. For sure, I would love to dive into all of that more, but I keep doing it as much as I can while I have my full-time job. But yeah, it's really in pending mode right now, Shawn, for like what's coming. It's my life could be look very different in 6 months from right now. We'll see.
Yeah, it's hard to predict the future. I mean, gosh, I mean, who knows? I mean, I never thought I'd be where I am today based on where I was 10, 20 years ago. So you never know what's going on there. What about, are you, because you said you used, trail running 14 miles a day, something like that. Any changes in athletic goals, or do you have athletic goals? I don't know. I mean, I certainly do. As I get close to 60, I've got these things I want to do, but any
Okay.
thoughts around those things?
I want to hear what your goals are too. Well, so I did this. Do you know what a ruck is? Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, sure.
Okay. So a lot of people don't know. I'm finding I didn't really know until I came to Texas, but I did a 50-mile ruck 2 weekends ago, and
That's long.
it will. Yeah, it was a
How long
lot.
did
I
it
mean,
take you to do that 50 miles? That's a lot of walking. Gosh.
so me and one of my best friends, he and I did it together, and like, you start at 9. So for anybody that doesn't know, you're walking, but you're carrying a weighted pack, and you're like, it can be through different terrain or whatever. And I was carrying 25 pounds. We started at 9 p.m. and you're supposed to do it the whole way through. So it took us 20 hours. So we finished around 5, but you don't sleep, right? So you start at 9 and you go all the way through. And I think it started at 9 because it's so damn hot in Texas during the day. So you get your most energy is at night when you're starting, and you just get that part done. So what was kind of cool about that is I did Mount Kilimanjaro too last September. So
Yeah, I did that. I did that in 2000. Yeah.
you did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Which route did you take? Did you take it's called the Marengo and the Machame routes, I think. There's two different routes,
Yeah.
if I recall.
There's like 6 routes, but so it's kind of interesting, and I'll tie this into carnivore here in a second, because I think it's very much worth mentioning. I started out, I think, with the Marengo one, which is a 7-day trek,
Mhm.
right? So yeah, I mean, Mount Kilimanjaro is in Tanzania. It's the highest freestanding mountain in the world. It's, you get up to 20,000 feet elevation. It's a lot. People train for this for a long time. So 7 days camping and then trekking is what I started out with. What happened though is, on my first night up on the first or second camp, I think, I fainted on the mountain. And I literally fainted. Sounds crazy, but I fainted, and a stick like went into my mouth, and I have 25 stitches in here.
Holy cow.
And you can't see on the screen right now, but I have stitches on my lip too. Maybe you can. I had like 5 stitches there because it busted open my lip. So I had to go back down and I had to take another route back up. But I was doing carnivore pretty strict during that. And I didn't tell my friends, but I surprised them at the top of the mountain on summit day. And my face was like a freaking bowling ball because it was so messed up. I had all these crazy stitches in it from like this random hospital in Tanzania, and my lip was all messed up. But I had so much energy to do it. I think because I was fueling off of carnivore, and and then the same thing with the ruck. I found that like I just didn't need to eat that much, and I was fine. I was totally fine. It was the engine was good. It was the hardware that hurt, the feet and the knees. um, so as far as goals, I don't really have any goals. I just like to do that kind of stuff for fun. If you have any cool things that you're doing that I should do, tell me because I love that kind of stuff.
Well, and you're right about. I remember on Kilimanjaro, I went up I think it was Machame, right? The quick one. It was like it's like 3 days instead of 5 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I think he fought summit on the 3rd day or something. We summited it like it was like 7 o'clock in the morning. So they get you up at 4 a.m. and you climb up that last from 18,000 feet up to 19,340 or whatever it is. And I did 50 push-ups at the top. That was my
nice.
Thing. But then on the way down, I mean, it was like, because you're slipping and sliding on the go, it's all this scree that you're sliding down. And I remember I didn't cut my toenails short enough. So I lost like 4 toenails or 4 or 5 toenails. Just
going down
the mountain. Yeah. Cause my toenails weren't trimmed short enough because I trimmed them, but apparently it was trimmed really short. And the boots I had. So that was interesting. Yeah. But I mean, for me, the goals I have, you may not be interested in because one is like at 60 dunking a basketball, which I don't know if it's not to say
I'm not tall enough.
I mean, I've seen a couple girls that are, so there's this one 5'7" girl that's working on trying to get up to dunk and she's getting close.
I'm 5'7".
Yeah. Maybe so they're females that, I mean, I don't know if she'll be able to, but I mean, I think there are females that are, I think 6 foot that can dunk. There are a few of them that have done that, but it takes a lot of, that I want to be able to sprint like a sub 60 400 meter run, 13 second, under 13 second 100.
Yeah.
What else am I doing? Backflip.
Can you do a backflip?
I will when I'm 60.
No way. See, that's something. Do you have a trampoline?
I do not, but I did one when I was 50. When I turned 50, I did one at a like. Well, I mean, I should be clear on this. I went to a trampoline park, like a trampoline park, and jumped on one of not on the trampoline, but the edge of one of those foam pits, and I was doing it into there, and so that sort of counts, but not quite. So I need to, I'm not going to do it on the cement. I mean, I'm just not going to. I may be stupid, but I'm not crazy.
No.
So I mean,
no, don't do that.
So I mean, there's a local gymnastics studio, and it's not, I mean, there's a requisite amount of jump height that you have to be able to obtain, and so if I can dunk a basketball, I should have enough height to do a backflip. That's just the way it works. And so,
I mean, I get scared from that kind of stuff. That's the stuff that scares me is I don't want to break my neck or whatever. Like I get freaked out.
That's true. That's true. That's why you want to do it in a very controlled place. You do it, go to a gymnastic gym and work on it. You're not going to hurt yourself.
Even then, I'm a wimp about it. So good on you. You have to let me know when you do that. Maybe I'll try.
Well, it'll be, like I said, I'm 58 and almost 58 and a half. So I got about a year and a half to go. And I know it's going to take a lot of work and effort to get there. So we'll see what.
Well, you've been crushing. I see your posts about sprinting and all that. Like, that's great. I do sprints too. I'll do uphill sprints. And I don't know. I think that kind of stuff, like, is just it's not a goal. It's like, I'm always trying to do it. Like, do you ever trail run? Cause you might love that. Trail running's awesome.
I do not. I don't do any distance running. I just never had a real desire. I ran cross country when I was in high school for a little while, and I just, I did it a few times. I ran a few 5Ks and 10Ks throughout my life, but it just doesn't interest me in a way that some of these other things do. And I don't know. I think my strength has been my strength, quite honestly, and being strong and explosive. And so those things are counterproductive for what I mean, the time it's not that running a little bit isn't, and I'll do it occasionally. I'll get out there, run a couple miles here and there, but I just don't have a strong desire to be really good at those things just because it's, I don't know.
Not your thing.
There's other things I enjoy more. So
yeah.
Anyway, well, Lauren, we are just about out of time here. Share with me your website, your social, whatever
Oh,
you have that people might have an interest in seeing what you have to say.
yeah. So I'm mainly just on YouTube, and I am on Instagram to connect with people more one-on-one because can't really do that on YouTube. My YouTube is just my name. It's quite long. It's Lauren Knight Hughes, Knight with a K. I have two last names. They're not hyphenated. I don't know why that is, but Lauren Knight Hughes is what it is on YouTube. And then on Instagram, it's lnight__h. So hit me up there if anybody wants to message me about just like any of this stuff. I just find all this, we're just in a new paradigm now. Things are shifting and changing quite a bit. It's just fun to talk about too. So those are probably the two main places to go. And I also encourage, like, I actually had somebody mention when we did the opposing views, Shawn, to bring on Garth to talk with you. So if anybody else has other suggestions, like let me know, hit me up because I think that'd be cool.
Awesome. Well, Lauren, thank you so much. Appreciate this. Have a wonderful day in Texas. Go have some fun.
Awesome.
Take care.
Thanks,
Bye-bye now.
Shawn.